as this train rolls by and makes a huge loud noise right when I push record, left, right, out. I actually just filmed this and it turns out it didn't record. But here's my response. I was just listening to Glen Beck. This is my response to Glen Beck. Just listening to Glen Beck talk about the CPI data. And him and I think Stu or whatever, they're right around the target, but they just don't get it, or they're not looking into how they calculate the data. So they are bringing up gas, fuel, milk, meat, what else? So various small components that are well above the 6.8 year over year CPI number that was released a few days ago. The reason being, Glenn, and Stu or whoever's with you, is because of how they calculate housing and rental costs. And I've gone into this in the past, and I keep hitting on it, how that CPI number is completely false. Or not completely, but majority of it's false because of how they weight it. So they weight that housing and rental data significantly more than they do these other data components. And it goes into like owner's equivalent rental, where they actually ask people to own certain properties what they think they can get for the rent, which is not, it's a subjective data point, where we do have real world data for that rental market or that housing market. We have it, we just don't use it. We use this owner's equivalent rental scheme, which is, we can see that that's significantly less than the real world number. So it's anchoring down the actual number, the actual CPI number, because of how heavily weighted it is in the index compared to these other components that they're mentioning. So it skews the data down, which we all know from the real world data that number is way off from what we actually know, and that number, that CPI number 6.8, is in real terms for us as people is way above 6.8, way above. So Glenn, that's why I encourage you to look at how they calculate the CPI and how it's weighted. So that's all you guys got to look at. It's not rocket science or anything. And you guys are around the target in a lot of issues, and on economics too, you guys are right around there, but you just don't quite have it within that ring. I'm not going to say you have to be on the bullseye, but you don't have it quite on the ring when it comes to that. But that's why that data there's so much disparity from the number and all those data points you guys are listing. It's because of that housing and rental weighting in the CPI index. And we know that that's false. And we know that number in itself too is also climbing up because owners, the people that are getting surveyed, they're starting to realize this because the psychology is changing, that, hey, I could actually rent this a lot more than what I think. So that number is starting to creep up along with what we're seeing in the real world, the huge year over year increases in rent and in the housing market. So even that number is starting to creep up, and as long as it does, it's heavily weighted. It's kind of lagging behind the rest of this data. So once that starts coming up, you see that CPI number should still be pretty hot. But if you read too, which I got to look into a little bit more, there was a warning saying that how they're going to adjust the CPI number. Anyway, I just wanted to respond to Glen Beck, and that's why that CPI number it just doesn't smell right, because it's not right. And then the last thing, so the PPI data just came out. That's hot. Now we got the Fed meeting. We're going to see what they're going to do. I don't think, the market's acting weird. The 10-year's not doing anything, because you couple all the stuff that I just said, or the PPI data at the Fed meeting, you couple that with the fact that we just passed the debt increase. So now they're going to come out there and they're going to continue spending. They're going to have to access the bond market even more. It doesn't seem like there's that much pressure on the 10-year. I expect that pressure to push a little bit more depending on what the Fed does. I don't think the Fed can even move enough to stave off the market, but I don't know. The only thing I expect is maybe more tapering. I think the market, like last time when they did their rate hike cycle, I think they got to 2.25, and then the market really started pulling back on them. And there's no way we're going to get there this time. Every time you keep overdosing the addict, he can take less and less of, doing without the drug. So that's essentially where we're at monetarily. So maybe you get to 1.25, even if they started to. But they're going to have to act sooner rather than later if they're going to save us poor people down here that are getting super affected by, the increasing prices, especially at the grocery store. Not to mention the housing market. You look at, you know, the average person is priced out almost entirely, unless you just want to have the majority of your income going to the housing, or I don't even know how you do it. But anyway, that's my response to Glen Beck. And yeah, just look at the numbers, look at how it's calculated, and then look how it's weighted. And then you can take their number, you can throw it out, and you go get the real world data on housing and rental prices. Anyway, peace out. Bye.